So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to VMN Business Talk. Today, we are diving into a topic that plays a major role in every business, and that's event planning. We'll discuss how to make events memorable, boost attendance, and maximize their impact. If you'd like to catch up on past episodes covering business and marketing, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and YouTube. We truly appreciate your follows, comments, and likes. They help us to bring even more valuable conversations your way. My name is Diana Spinka. I'm the producer of this show. And today, I'm here with our host, networking and marketing expert, Victor Nichols. Hello, Victor.
Hello.
And we're thrilled to welcome today's guests, Andrea Lokshin, VP of Sales and Marketing at Meadowlands Racing Entertainment, an expert in corporate and large-scale event management. Hello, Andrea.
Hi.
And Maria Cucciniello Falzo, founder of the HIP event, specializing in personal and professional event planning, with a talent for turning last-minute chaos into seamless execution. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning.
Ladies, thank you a lot for being with us this morning. Please tell us a little bit about your background and why you believe that events are so crucial for businesses. Andrea, let's start with you.
So I come from about 30 years of event marketing, sponsorships, partnerships across a number of industries, all big corporate companies, Toys R Us, Unilever, Bacardi, and Fiat Chrysler. And for the past 8 years, I've been running group sales at the Meadowlands Racetrack in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Events are my world right now. I execute probably over 150 events a year, and they are critical to the business. They bring people in and bring people together. They create bonding experiences. They show recognition. Tons of reasons why they're important. So,
Well,
Awesome.
Thank you. Maria?
Hi. Okay. So I started the HIP event in 2007 after having a career in retail fashion marketing. I was a public relations manager for Neiman Marcus, marketing director for Saks Fifth Avenue. I was a marketing manager for all the Hugo Boss shops in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. So my background was really in retail events. So really driving on ROI and producing luxury events that would connect the community to sales in the stores. So I took that knowledge and started an agency that could help small to medium-sized businesses when they were launching a product or launching a new car or whatever it was within the luxury market. And I was created more or less the go-to agency for big brands. Being in New Jersey, COVID happened and moved into more personal events. Those were kind of the only events that were happening. So I really found a love for working in the personal event space. So a lot of coordination and planning in the weddings, big birthday milestones, and really just pulling all together the vendors and working with them on the coordination of all the events and all of the pieces that go into it. So I have a little bit of both sides, the professional side and the personal side, but from the coordination standpoint, so working a lot with people like Andrea and people that already have their venues and working with all the details that go into that. I think they're important in business, and I think that was where you wanted to know what is the importance, correct?
Yeah.
I think it's important to stay connected to the community in a way, especially your customer, whether your customer is your community or your, sphere of influence. It allows you to kind of keep yourself front and center and top of mind in a really creative way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Vic, what is your experience and background with events?
Events for me have been crucial throughout my entire career to be part of our marketing strategy and part of our connectivity. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that the networking is really the core of everything that I've ever done with any of my companies, the past, present, and most assuredly future. I do have an annual event that I do. And of course, COVID obviously put a little pin in that one, but I just recently had one. I started it back up again. And that event is specifically for networking and bringing people together who are within my sphere and the people that are within other people's sphere. So it's a free event, and it's focused on high level networking. And we do anywhere from 600 to 800 people throughout the entire evening. I most have done is probably around 800. That was a few years back. And you come, you eat, you drink, you have live entertainment, you have all that stuff. And what it creates, and here's the thing that I think speaks to what you were saying, Deanna, or asking, I should say, is that when we have these events, I want to pick the right venue. I want to pick the right activities. I want to pick the right things. So people walk into the event and say, oh my God, I can't believe that this is a networking event. 2, I can't believe I didn't have to pay for it. And 3, whatever this guy's up to, I think I need to be a part of it. That's what you want to get out of it from a marketing standpoint of view. Because I also understand there are social events and things like that are not necessarily focused on marketing. My events are focused on building my brands and moving it along. So I have always used them as a tool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we had a conversation with Vic yesterday, and we kind of got to the point that a venue is the first and one of the most important things when you organize an event. And what can you say about this? Maria, Andrea wants to go first.
Okay.
Andrea, you start with that since you are the venue, and I can kind of pick up on it.
Sure. So, everyone that comes to my venue, if I had $100 for every time I heard the word, I want something different, I would be a millionaire by now, because I think I get that on every single time somebody walks in our venue. And I think that's really people want, like Vic said, they want the location to be something cool and different and offer a unique experience to people that they can't get anyplace else. And they want something different. And, our venue offers live horse racing. You can't really get that in any other place in our area. So it's people love that fact that it's a location can provide a really unique experience. And making that their experience memorable. I mean, I also think a lot of when people have a theme is really important too. So it's not just, in our case, they like a derby theme or they like whatever it may be. And so it really creates a more memorable experience when it's not just show up at a hotel ballroom or a restaurant and eat and drink. So when they have something like that, and of course, they love free stuff. People love free stuff too, but to make it really memorable for them. But it's got to be important. It's got to be valuable stuff. It's got to be stuff they take away that really means something to them. So I mean, for our place, it's a different experience and creating that experience. And when people walk away with a great experience, what do? They tell, what do they say? If they have a bad experience, they tell, all these people, whatever.
You'll tell everybody and their grandmother.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really important. That word of mouth for us is critical. And, I thrive on the fact that they come to our venue, and it's not, it's not a hard sell. People come and they love the atmosphere. They love the environment. And when they feel that way, you have a winning location.
You're right.
So
that's true. I can speak to that. I was just making notes, and the first thing that comes to mind is why do people go to the venue first? It's because the experience, because they want to already know what it feels like to be in that space when they're planning their event. So I think, kind of checking that box, a lot of clients, they'll come to me, they'll already have the venue by the time I get to them. So they're already creating that vision and what that feels like, right? And it all goes back to what is that experience? And, definitely with Andrea's location, experience is key. But when you're talking about a personal event or a professional event, it goes back to, having that kind of that point of they're already envisioning what their day is going to be like. And they're already envisioning what they need to get out of that day, whether it's personal or professional. And I think when you have your venue, it's kind of, you can check that box. One of the things that we love to do is to take, like you said, everybody comes to us too and says, we want it to be different. We don't want it to be the same, so it's like across the board, right? Everybody's going to say that. But how can you make those things unique and special for them? And, a lot of times that does start with the venue.
Mm-hmm. Vic, how do you pick your events?
Venues obviously is an important part of it. Is a very important part of it. I think I've had the majority of my events at one venue, but I've had it in different places. There's a place called Avenue A in Newark, which is in the Ironbound, and is a very unique location because it's houses inside antique cars. So the entire it's a banquet venue.
Mm-hmm.
We did a life camp event there.
Yeah, the owners keep their cars, these cars that they collect inside this building, and they're beautiful. But you have an event and you're walking around and you're able to look at these cars and see these. I mean, everything from Ferraris to all kinds of different things. And that was a cool venue. And I've done a couple events there, but it's a very unique venue. So when people go there, they also want to experience something, if possible, that they haven't seen before. I mean, there aren't too many venues like that. And I remember the first time I walked in, I'm like, whoa, this is a cool venue. They even have an indoor, cigar humidor that you walk into, but it's hermetically sealed. So if you don't smoke cigars, you cannot smell cigars in the entire place. It's totally enclosed, special ventilation and everything. So it even offers that kind of a unique experience for people who might want to smoke cigars or whatever. So it was really, so that venue was very unique. But every venue I choose, I also had one at Andrea's venue at the Meadowlands Racetrack because I wanted to do something different. And like she said, there aren't too many choices if you want to go to a racetrack. I mean,
right?
There just aren't. And I don't care
and
what.
You wanted to work with me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I will also say this too: the other reason to pick a venue is the people who you're working with. I have to emphasize that the most. When I work with Andrea and Maria on things, I don't have to worry about anything because it's not my lane. The things to put on an event, I'm the guy who's out there trying to make sure that people obviously come to the event, and then when they're there, that I'm talking to them because they're my guests and all that. And everything that happens up to the event and everything that happens during the event, that's not my gig. So if you choose a venue and you choose people to work with who aren't on top of their game, the intent of your event can be completely missed because execution is king. So that's another piece. You've got to choose people like Andrea and like Maria who are going to be running your event. So it comes off the way you had originally envisioned.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, my clients they come in and a lot of them, they're not event planners. They don't know what they're doing. They want a turnkey solution where they can invite their guests and know that everything else is going to be taken care of for them. So that is also something that certainly our place and our customer service that we offer really provides too.
And that's something like I talk a lot about is, when we're working with someone, and I'm sure, Andrea, this is for you too, is you want that guest to, you want that client to feel like a guest at their own party. So whether it's personal or professional, you want that point person to be able to, enjoy themselves, but at the same time, check off all the boxes that they need to get done at their event, like networking or, whatever it is.
100%. Yep.
And that's so true. I mean, in the events that I've had, there's always been a person designated to assisting me while I'm at the event itself. And Maria, I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people, especially people who are doing it for business purposes, don't think of that. But it's a stressful day. it's a stressful day. If you're having a big event, it's a stressful day. And the one, I'll give a shout out to the Crystal Plaza, because the Crystal Plaza has always offered me, an amazing experience. I have never had an event at the Crystal Plaza where people have not gotten back to me and said, yo, bro, never been there before. And holy crap, what an incredible venue and what incredible service. And it's seamless. Someone helps me along throughout the entire event and make sure that everything's, going well. They even make sure that I eat something. I mean, even down to that, they make sure that I actually eat something. So it's those kinds of things that differentiate the experience of an event. And that means I can concentrate on the reason why I'm doing the event in the first place, right?
And why do you do your events? I mean, you kind of explained this, but as for businesses, as for your clients, for events that you host for your clients, why do business need to do events?
If you don't incorporate events into your business, it actually positions you within a marketplace. It positions you within your marketplace or within your particular vertical that says, hey, I want to be a connector for my client base and beyond. If somebody comes to my event, so many people say, oh, Vic, I came to your event and I met this person and we're doing business together. That does not financially do anything for me, okay? Because they're doing business together. But what it does do is it builds tremendous political capital for me. Because but for me, that's how they met. And both of them will remember me as a result of how they met, because they met at my event. And that will be useful for me later on. A lot of people play one-dimensional ball here. And it's like me. I want people to come here and I want them to spend money with me and I want them to buy my stuff, my goods and services or whatever that I'm trying to, hawk on that particular day, whatever it might be. That's the wrong attitude. Being a connector and facilitating other people doing business with each other grows your network and also raises your value. Because now when people need something, they call me. Whatever it is, they want to finish a chair, they want to buy a plane, whatever the hell they want to do, they call me. And that's important, to stay in contact with the people and help the people around you, because they will ultimately help you. So that's the reason why I do it.
I mean, business.
I love it. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Maria. Go ahead.
No, I just love that he used the word connector, because that's always my word. And I think everybody on this call right now is a connector, right? Like a natural born connector. I think it's in my bio. Like, we have such a keen way of making everybody else a lot of money.
Well, and I have to put a point on what she just said, because Maria is the reason why I know my partner, Larry Aaron. Okay, is because of Maria Cucciniello. Talking about connectors. She's the one who introduced us.
Oh my God.
Oh, I didn't know. How did that happen?
Maria introduced us. I didn't know Larry. She did. Because Larry asked me the other day, he said, oh, you talked to Maria? I said, yeah. And he's like, how's she doing? And blah, blah, blah. And he reminded me.
I used to do PR. I used to do PR for their business. That's how I met him. And then his whole world, I was like, you need to know Vic. And,
know each other,
that's like just, I got 1,000 stories like that.
It really does work that way.
But it does.
Yeah. And if we go back to your, to the benefits of the events, I guess, Andrea, for you, it's a little different, because businesses come to you not to host events mostly for their employees. How does that work in terms of benefits?
So, I mean, for a client to host an event with us, they benefit on, they bring people together to share, to celebrate, to build relationships, to get out of the office. And it builds morale for their employees. It shows them sometimes that they're recognized for doing a good job. They sometimes, I have an accountant, happens to be my accountant, but they come in and they do a party after their tax season every year, because they want to celebrate their employees for all their hard work. So, I think there's all those reasons that clients will come. How it benefits me, by me getting different levels of business, different types of people in. The biggest form of a compliment for me is by somebody that goes to that party, calls me and the next day or that day and says, oh, I want to book because I was just at a party, and I like my eyes light up, and it's like, that's why I do what I do, because it's like the best thing ever. So that for me is like the biggest sense of reward, when you can, you always want to under promise and over deliver, but you also have to remember that you're never going to please everybody. You're always going to have your critics in the situation that are going to nitpick all your little details. But if you can generally over deliver the experience of what people are going to offer, they're going to come back. And it's a reason why I have, over 60% repeat business year over year, because people have a good experience.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
What do you do to over deliver? Like, can you give me a few examples?
I do a lot, to be totally honest.
And I've been at events. Yes, she does.
It's everything from, it's literally the full experience from the minute somebody walks into our, not even if I make a connection with them on a phone or email, to the minute they walk into our building, the personal tour that they get. I don't just give them a tour of our venue, but I show them, once I understand what their event is all about. I try to bring their event to life in front of them as we're walking through our building, to say, this will be here, this will be here, you can do this here, this, and they're like, really, I can do this? And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. So if you create that experience for them as they're going through their tour to kind of understand your space, they start to envision it, because we have a big place, lots of options. But once I know what their goals are, I can narrow down to their goals. And then from there, they say their thank yous, they're smiling. I feel like we had a good conversation, and most of the time we do. And I'm pretty sure, I feel pretty comfortable when people walk out the door that they're going to move forward. Also, there's a lot of follow-up that goes into these events. So without being a nudge, I share them all the information. I try my best to communicate with my clients, whether through email, whatever, with all their answers before they ask their questions. So this way they have not just, and it's not just, this is what the space does, but you know what, here's some photos that showed some other event of how it worked. So now they're really bringing together the feel of what it is. And then ultimately, once they get there, it's everything from getting them their drink. I don't get everybody a drink, but the person that I worked with, I will, my main person, I will go to the bartender and get their drink and get them settled. Customized signage with their logo on it. Everyone loves to see their brand on signs. They love their brand, they love to see signs, and they love to see that. So, putting the customized little touches of their logo on a Jumbotron when they walk in the door. I've never seen people are so excited with their brand, but when they see that, it's it's a little deep. They're like, oh, we didn't know you do that. And having a greeter, somebody that walks into the building and actually welcomes them and says hello, and this is the direction you go, and little things like that. I also check on them a few times throughout their party, making sure the room temperature is right, making sure the food was served right, making sure it's on time. Obviously the setup is perfect from the beginning, all of those little things. And then I obviously at the end, I always send a follow-up note after the event is over to thank them for coming, which is so important. People, I think, forget to do that. They think their event is over when it's over, and it isn't. It's actually just beginning, because it's at an opportunity that you can, thank them for trusting you. They buy the venue, but they buy me too. And they're also, that I'm going to do the event right for them. And to say thank you and ask them for their feedback is such a good closing of the details. And then it's always like, not pressure, but if you have anything coming up, let me know. And then it even continues. I actually have a mental note from all my clients that within 5 to 6 months after, if I haven't heard from them, I will reconnect and just say, oh, you're looking to do your event again next year, or you're looking to do, so that it's a full circle follow-up of detail. So yes, lots of little details behind the scenes to make the customer happy and seamless, and to enjoy, as Maria said, enjoy their event, not just feel like they planned it, but actually be able to enjoy it.
Yeah. That's a big one. Maria, what's your formula for working with clients?
So for me, it's based in a lot of project management. I am working with I'll work with brides or husbands planning milestone birthdays for their wives. Again, people that are not doing this on an annual basis, they're doing this like once in their life. So it's a little bit different in the sense that there's not repeat business, but the highest compliment I think is when you get a referral from somebody that you had worked with before. Because again, for every bride, there's 10 bridesmaids. So if they had a great experience, it's great to hear from, the mom's best friend or, another bridesmaid that's interested in working with you. I think, I always say that I think the way growing up, like my heart and my passion really lies in service. And I think probably also for Andrea, like there's a certain level of service that you want to provide that client. For me, again, like I talked about, like project management, when I sign on with someone, I have very detailed timelines as to how we're going to, everything from communication, how I can be there for them through the process of the contract. Again, I'm dealing with a lot of personal details and sometimes even, a little therapy mixed in there, especially dealing with,
That is true.
Yeah. And I'm dealing with like moms and daughters and sons and yeah. And I'm kind of getting closer to the age of the moms than I am the actual brides. So that's a whole new dynamic. But I think it's really, for me, it's about, setting that timeline when we start and then checking in with each other, in a very detailed manner so we can all be accountable for the things that we need to get our jobs done, whether it be what I need to deliver for them or the information that they need to get to me in order to create timelines. One of the biggest differentiators or things that we do is that we don't just handle the venue piece of it. We'll handle all of the vendors. So like, what's the photography timeline? What's the videography timeline? When are we going to give speeches? When are we going to, say thank yous? When are there going to be, if we're talking about personal events, are there any special dances? When do we want to, make special announcements? So we do a very detailed timeline, which again, our clients, really rely on me for. But it's really that project management piece, just making sure that everybody's meeting their expectations and, we're there for them, in every step of the way. And I think that again comes back to just, being in service in this business is really what, I think I love about it.
Andrea, you said something in yours, which you said it was a small detail. I was recently at an event, and it was in a big venue, and there were multiple events going on, and there was not a greeter at the door. Okay, so here I am, wandering around a venue that I have no idea what the makeup of it is. I'm looking for my event, and I'm telling you, by the time I got to the event, I was pissed off.
Right.
Okay, because I'm supposed to be coming to an event, that particular one I was paying for, and I can't even find the event. You don't even have, and it's really not a little thing. Wayfinding and having someone to greet you can set the tone of the person walking in the door.
They always say you have one chance to make a first impression. So it's true. It's how they're welcomed, how they're greeted. Can I help you? If somebody needs, additional assistance, it's that first point of contact for your guests is so important to set the tone. It is absolutely mandatory.
Yeah. I really appreciated you saying that, because it's so important as a consumer, in that particular situation. As a consumer, I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
So I guess that is like one of the points to make an event successful. What are others? Vic, for you, like, how do you consider event a success?
I mean, well, there's obviously there are different ways to measure success, but for the actual event itself, I would say I want to make sure that the people at the event are being engaged. And one of the things, and Andrea knows this because Andrea's worked with me on some of my recent stuff. I like to have a magician at the event, a roving magician at the event. And the reason for that is people are not like the people who are on this call right now. Everybody's not, hey, how you doing? And going to walk up to somebody and talk to them and, open up a conversation. They're just not. Everybody's not the same. So when you come to an event like that, where you have several hundred people in a room, when you have somebody who's walking around, especially something that's fun, and and by the way, this idea was Andrea's idea, wasn't my idea. To have a magician is that the people now can crowd around that person and they have something in common, even though they don't know each other. And the person who's doing the magic knows that part of their job is to get these people talking to each other. So they actually do tricks and things that require the people to talk to each other.
Like an icebreaker.
Exactly. It's an icebreaker, and it makes people feel comfortable. And it also makes them feel that they're not being singled out or focused on because they're standing in a group, and it makes them more comfortable. And I think it's important for the host of an event to do everything they can to make their guests comfortable and feel that they're part of the event, where it's not stressful. How many events have you gone to and you've seen, forget about networking events, even social events, where you've seen people like standing to the side and they're like nervous and they're looking around and they don't know where to do. They don't, because there's no activities going on, or there's no things that make them feel like they're part of this, and they don't have to be an alpha extrovert in order to participate. So I think that's a very important piece. So I try to look for that, and then have other things like photo booth and live entertainment and things like that, where people feel that there's a emotion and a collective participation in the event. I think that's an important piece.
Mm-hmm. Maria, how about you?
So in my history of life, one of the very special things I learned when I was at Neiman Marcus was we call them surprise and delight moments. So, and that's creating, to Vic's point, is, creating those special takeaways or something that connects the client or the person hosting to that special moment that their guests are going to remember. And I think, it all just goes back to surprise and delight. If you kind of keep that mentality, whether it's, through experience, and we just keep going back to experience, but it's, those moments that really make them memorable.
Do you have a particular example, especially from your experience when you worked with businesses and organized events for brands?
Yeah. So some examples. At one point, we were working with a luxury car dealership in the area as the retailer, but the brand was Bentley that we were, and they had a new car coming off the lot, and we had to come up with a creative way to kind of announce this new car. And they wanted to do a splashy event, and at the time, we took the car and we were going to unveil it in a private jet hangar so we partnered with a private jet hangar in Teterboro, and in the hangar had all the jets open so guests could go and view them, as well as, we had a custom bar made, ice sculptures, and then at some point we unveiled the car. But it was like we had the sponsors for the cocktails, and then we had food and drink. But it was a big wow moment, because it's not every day that somebody gets to come to a private jet hangar and hang out in private jets. So those were the kinds of moments that we really have been known for creating. Another event that we did, I was charged with doing an anniversary party for a hospital in New Jersey. And still to this day, they've never done an event, but we took the ice rink in West Orange, Richard J. Cody Arena, and we actually held the gala on the ice. So
where I learned how to skate. That's awesome.
I know. They've never done this event again, but we did a gala for a 50th anniversary for a hospital, and did it right on the ice. And, you know, again, built kitchens, brought in tenting. We covered figure out how are we going to cover this ice so guests, you know, can have an unbelievable experience. But again, you know, you're in a hangar of sorts. So how do you bring it in, and what kind of visuals do you create on the ceiling to bring in the room so it feels intimate, even though it's not? How do you you're in a room with bleachers in it, but it's, you know, we're going to have a black tie event. So how do we make that all work? So there's a lot of pieces that go into, you know, some of those experiences. Trying to think. I don't know. I can come up with a million. I don't know. But when we partnered with for Susan G. Komen, so I guess it's like 15 years ago now. When I was at Neiman's, we hosted the Pink Tie Ball in Neiman Marcus. So me as the event manager, you know, PR manager at the time, we had to come up with how are we going to fit 1,500 people in a black tie gala, and, you know, what is this going to feel like? And I just actually found those pictures too. But, you know, we had Smokey Robinson perform. Well, where's he going to perform? In the store with 1,500 guests. So we removed the shoe salon and put in a stage for, you know, his 40-piece band. So, things like that. Problem solving.
Wow.
Crazy. Logistical.
That's amazing. I guess you have a case for almost every type of an event, or every type or an occasion.
Yeah, it's just
big and small. Yeah,
just
sure.
coming up with the wow moments that people don't expect.
We got a question from Rob, and he's asking, what do you find the best giveaways or gifts? And that's something that all of you can speak about. So Andrea, let's start with you.
I mean, I personally think the best type of item is something that people can use or hold on to that keeps their brand top of mind. So we've come up with items that, like, something that holds your phone in your car, because people, then you're seeing their brand like every time you're in your car, you know, or something that's not just like a, you know, I mean, everyone loves food and chocolate and like those fun things, and those are good too. But again, giveaways have multiple meanings, like in multiple purposes. I don't think it's one size fits all. Sometimes a giveaway is just because you want to do something fun, like, you know, just to have something fun for people. But other times there's a real purpose, you know. So I think something that is usable, like we did, I don't have it on my phone right this second, but the little phone things that go on the back of your phone to put like a credit card in, because somebody's holding that and seeing their brand all the time. Like they have it and it's in their face and they can see it. So, you know, it makes you think of people. Like that's the reason you're spending the time. You know, Vic does hats for his event because people like to wear hats and they wear the things. So people see that. So those are to me the best. I feel like it is more productive to spend a few dollars on a nicer item that people are going to hold on to and have purpose versus like a pen, you know, something. And you also don't want an item that everybody has and nobody, you know, like a pen that's just a normal item that's anybody can get a pen, you know. So
yeah, it's not very creative.
Yeah, it's again, it goes back to being different, going back to something cool, something that somebody's going to show somebody and say, look at this. It's like something really different. I haven't seen this before. Like those are the cool type of giveaways, you know, and items like that.
We do. So if, you know, when guests are checking, whether it's, we do a lot of hotel welcome boxes or welcome bags and things like that. Like when guests check in, whether it's a professional event or a personal event, guests check into a hotel. So we try to tie that check-in experience with something personal back to who's hosting the event, whether it's a brand, and come up with something really cool to put in that bag or that box, or really curate that box to feel special to a couple or to the guest that's checking in for that event.
Right. And themed, obviously, to relate.
Again, back to your theme. Yes.
Totally themed, something that relates to, you don't want to give out something just for the sake of giving it. You want it to be relatable to what it is and what theme you're doing. Vic does his annual event every year, and we come up with something customized for Newark Bound and for his brand that makes sense, that people are going to hold on to, that makes them think of Newark Bound. So, themed, memorable, different type of items.
Usable items.
Usable are the most effective.
Mm-hmm. Vic, in your experience, what was like the most memorable item you've got from an event?
Well, I mean, the people on this call understand that I own a promotional products company, and I've been doing promotional products for 35 years. So my perspective on that is how important it is to have the right promotional product for the right thing. Okay. You have trade shows, you have events, you have these different things. There are different reasons. And when somebody comes to us and asks, oh, I want to get a promotional product for X, Y, and Z. Usually for most promotional product companies, the question is, how many do you want and what's your budget? Wrong question.
I hate that question.
Okay. Absolutely wrong question. The question is, why? Why do you want a promotional product? As somebody who's going to be giving you consultation on a promotional product, I want to make sure that I'm going to recommend something that's actually going to get you to where you want to go. A promotional product is about marketing. It's not about anything else. And people lose sight of that. I got to give something out. I'm at a trade show and they give out a piece of crap pen. Okay. And somebody goes to write with that piece of crap pen. And the first thing that comes to their mind is, boy, what a shitty company this is. And they throw it into garbage. Okay. You've left an impression in their mind where they didn't have a negative impression, that you don't even care enough about your business to give out something that actually works. Okay. And people make that mistake all the time, and you're never going to know it. Okay. And the other thing about promotional products is it sometimes is an afterthought when it should not be. It's an integral part of what it is that you're doing. Rob's question is excellent. However, budget. People are always like, well, I don't want to spend that much because I want to save, $3 on this and $2 on that. Guess what? Don't give out anything at all. If you can't give out something that's going to be square on what you're trying to get done and your long-term goal, you're better off creating a neutral impression than a crappy one. Okay. So I'm real clear with people. And there's many people I've said, I am not going to take an order for a promotional product for you because what you want is not going to do what you want it to do. And you're going to blame me. I'm out. Okay. I'd rather not get the order. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about that because I approach it from a marketing standpoint of view and an advertising standpoint of view, more so than you want to make sure that somebody gets something. Not always the most important thing. It's what they feel about when they get something.
Also, the right item.
Here's your question.
Yeah.
Now, being in this business, I have been at events and I've gotten something and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm in the business and I'm like, this is really freaking cool. And I use it and I keep it. And it's something that's either whether it's on my desk or it's in my pocket or it's in my car. And I see their logo and I'm like, this is cool. I mean, somebody gave me iPods. Okay. And they were logoed and everything. It was cool. They were really neat things that you could actually use and think of them, think how important it was for them to give it to you. So my takeaway here to everyone who's listening, don't be cheap. If you're going to be cheap, don't do
it. Don't do an event. Okay. Well, Maria, how about you? In your experience, what is like the most interesting or giveaway products
Oh.
that you've come up with?
Interesting. Okay, so we curated a box for this was for a wedding event. This one just kind of always stands out in my mind. We curated a box to welcome guests, and in that box was the couple's favorite bottle of wine. We included a custom wine stopper. That was the item that we created with their logo. We created a custom wine stopper, and it was gorgeous. So it didn't feel like it was just about the couple. Like it was designed that anybody would use it. So it wasn't something that you felt like you would throw away just because it.
Like magnets.
What'd you say?
Like magnets, with a photograph of the couple.
Exactly. Like it wasn't that.
Right.
So it was, so it was wine, the stopper. And then what we had the couple do was each of them choose we work with this great company, snack company, and we had him choose a snack, her choose a snack, and then something that they like together. And then we included the snacks that were his, hers, and theirs, curated in the box.
That's
and then all their favorite places to go to that were around town, because again, many of their guests were from out of town. So, where are their favorite spots in town that they like, recommendations that their guests could enjoy. And the last thing, and then we included like a little, like a recovery pack, which had all kinds of, fun little things in there. And one of them was a trip to the IV lounge that was across the street from the venue.
I love it.
Oh my goodness.
So that was across the street from the venue, and they were allowed to like get a discount.
Party with you, Maria.
I mean, so, it was just a curated experience. And I mean, people still talk about it and remember it, but it's like those kinds of things are just personal. And, back to Vic's point is it's, how are you going to use it? What's it going to be for? What kind of feeling are they going to get when they open it?
Yep.
So, that was like a over the top situation. I mean, this box was like over the top.
I love it.
But again, we kind of like over the top situations. So,
well, I think I will be talking about it, and I wasn't at the event.
I'm thinking back, like just going back, like when we were doing an invitation we were opening a new restaurant, and the restaurant was called 32 Degrees, which is freezing point, right? So we sent all of the press the invitation inside a block of ice. And then that was delivered. So that's how we, again, we're talking about guest experience. That was a PR event. So we sent them the invitation inside a block of ice. So they had to wait till the thing melted to see the invitation. And then they were being invited to the press preview for the new restaurant.
How many years ago was it?
That was a long time ago. When how many years ago was that?
I just recently saw something like that. Like people did it like last year.
Oh God,
and it was like
I'm talking about like 15 years ago.
Okay. Well, you were probably the first one who came out.
Well, I mean, I wasn't. I mean, I would, but again, like it was a collective, like I was working with a PR agency.
I would definitely want to see that. If I got an invite like that, I'm like, okay, I want to see what's in here.
Yeah, exactly. It's creating those like wow moments that it's like, doesn't necessarily just have to be about the giveaway, but it could be the invitation experience as well, or the follow-up, what that feels like.
Yeah. Well, we have our 10 minutes left, and I would love to talk a little bit about small businesses and small budgets, because, it's kind of like easy to throw a great event if you have a lot of money. But for those small businesses who have zero to nothing, what can they do to have an event, to connect with the community, to get more clients, to create a buzz, maybe? Andrea, what are your thoughts?
So first I would say think about what you really want to offer your guests. Like, what do they want? If a big fancy buffet of food is not important, then don't spend money there. Like, don't feel like you have to feed them an elaborate meal. You may be able to get away with, you know, some little delicacy, some little item or some sort. Like, decide where. First, find out what is the experience you want to offer and how important, or prioritize what's most important. Second, I would say is lots of barter. You can barter with vendors and people that have outside services. So, maybe they can offer, a DJ may come in and offer their services to play for free if you promote their company in whatever it is you're doing. They may, photographers, same thing. You plug them on an invite, you mention them wherever. So you can, not obviously everybody wants to make money, but you can barter and come up with opportunities that, can benefit both sides. Also, you can get sponsors. So sponsors are a big part of hosting events, and they can help contribute to funding some of the, expenses that it goes into that as well. Another thing you can do with a smaller budget is also have some of your organizers or your guests provide things themselves, raffle items and some sort of items and things that people can bid on, or donated items. So those are things too that can add and enhance an event too on a smaller budget. But I mean, most importantly, I think you really need to prioritize and say, I get it all the time. People come in, they ooh and ah about the space, the menu, the food, and then they go, my budget is half of this, and sometimes, I hate to say it, but sometimes you have to walk away. You really have to, and don't, I would say, don't be afraid to walk away, because it's like a Porsche, but I can only afford whatever I can afford. So I think you have to focus on their budget, and most importantly, see if it's really realistic. And sometimes sometimes they'll give you, sometimes it's always a touchy question when you ask a client for their budget. Everybody knows it. Maria knows it. Vic knows it. We know when somebody always says, oh, well, what budget do you have to work with? You never want to give a number that's too high. You never want to give a number that's too low. I always give a range usually, but I try it to be realistic. And if it isn't realistic, truly, then sometimes I will just very nicely say, I'm sorry, but this doesn't work on that budget. And surprisingly, when you do that, their budget seems to change. So, usually if they say, oh, you know what, actually, I could do this. So be careful when somebody says they have a really small budget, because normally they're not coming to your venue. My favorite is, I will say, somebody says they have a small budget, but they want to bring 200 people. So that makes me laugh. Every time I hear that, I'm like, your budget can't be that small if you're inviting 200 people. So, ways of reducing budget, reducing headcount, bartering, prioritizing obviously what's most important, sponsors, and actually donations of things that clients and guests can do.
Mm-hmm. And Vic, and for you?
Well, I think along those lines, I think the first event I ever did was here, a lifetime ago, back in the 80s, when I started my business. I had less than no money. And I did a local event, networking event, at one of the local bakeries. The bakery doesn't exist anymore. And all we served were desserts. It was just dessert. It was a dessert networking event. Well, people like desserts. Okay. Yeah. I paid essentially for nothing, really. The dessert, the venue, I used their store. I did it. I sent out invitations. So I paid for the invitations and I got people there. And I got about 45 people. That was my first networking event. And it might have cost me, all in all, maybe $100.
Yeah.
Because it was really about strategic alliance development. They agreed to do it because I was in the community. They saw what I was doing. I said, I'm going to do everything I can to promote. Plus, I'm going to be bringing people to your bakery who've never been here before. Mm-hmm. So they're going to buy something. Trust me, they're going to buy something. And they did. people came. I mean, it was a bakery. I mean, you're going to spend a few bucks on cupcakes or whatever it is, or if you like their showcasing. So I was able to get it done, really, the entire event for about $100. Now I don't know how willing people are these days, but that was an extreme example of, I had no money. I mean, but I needed to start to get, I was walking the street handing out flyers. I mean, I needed to get business. So I was doing everything I could to figure out how to do it because they didn't have any money.
There's actually a trend for low-key kind of experiences like that, when people don't, dress like casually and they go to a matcha store or a coffee shop and they just, because the main point is to connect,
right?
Not to present yourself in a way that that you're like the best professional.
Yeah, and you might
ever.
not be in that position. Yeah, you just might not simply be in that position to do that. But that was an extreme example. And then of course, as the years went on, it's very similar to what Andrea was saying. Build strategic alliances with people who actually would call me and say, "Hey, Vic, I want to be part of your event. What can I do? What can I donate? What can I give you in order to be part of your event?" That's when you have something that has a value proposition. When they're calling you and asking you to take their stuff. So yeah. That's where eventually we'll get to.
Deanna, also any businesses that are struggling or brand new sometimes will, want people to host an event solely to what Vic said, is to get the traffic and get people, get the exposure. Yeah. So they'll say, you know what, we'll host you here. You won't cost you anything. We'll give you a little bit of food and you're going to bring in X number of people. And
that's your job.
That's another way to do it as well, too, for sure.
Yeah, sometimes it's just creating that experience. I mean, you could work on any kind of budget, but, back to what you guys were saying, what are you serving? It doesn't need to be over the top. Don't make it about the food. Make it about the experience. And what is that going to look like, for the guest, and what is the overall goal?
Yeah. So yeah, those are from where I sit. Those are some of the things that I've done through the years, and I agree with both of you. And there's so many ways to do it.
Okay, I guess the main point is to be creative, to understand your target audience and your goal, and just to work with what you have, and try the best that you can.
Well, and also consulting people like Maria and Andrea. Because a lot of people, they don't consult somebody who are experts in the area that they're, in event planning and event execution. It's very important to have a conversation with a professional. If you're on trial for your life, you want a good attorney. Okay. If you want to put on a good event, you want somebody who's a master at what it is that they do. So I think that's another thing that a lot of folks try to skip over. But having conversations with professionals like this can actually save you a lot of money, because they can tell you things that you should not do.
Yeah, so true. Well, as we're moving closer to the end of our conversation, I would like to ask you to say one main point for everyone who is listening or who is watching us. What would you take from this conversation? If there was just one thing, what would it be, Andrea?
I'd probably just say that events are a real true way of bringing people together that can benefit both personally and professionally. It checks a lot of boxes in a lot of ways that really can enhance relationships, bring businesses to the next level, create a social environment, which when people get along better socially and have more fun, they do more business. So it checks all those boxes. And as long as it's done right, done with the right mindset, done with the right budget to work with that makes sense, it offers that good customer experience from beginning to end, and all the details are followed along the way, it can really leave a memorable impression and really make a difference.
Yeah, thank you. Maria?
I would say that, when you're planning, working with your partners, whether it's the venue or planner or your florist or photographer, is just, making sure that that relationship is just as important as the relationship and the outcome that you're expecting at your event. So just staying in connection and managing your expectations, and working on your timeline as far as like a project management.
That's a good one. Vic, your turn.
Well, from somebody who probably consumes more of it than actually does the planning and things like that. One of the things you don't want to lose sight of is having fun at your event. Okay. People get a little bit too serious sometimes, even when it's a serious event, like if it's a symposium or whatever. And I really like to always interject either whether it be levity, whether it be fun activity, whatever it is, because people feel better when they're not all, tensed up. So I think having fun is something that it's implied, but when you're talking about doing an event, you sometimes forget because you're like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. And that's where people like Andrea and Maria come in. So you can be part of your party. Like Maria said earlier, a guest at your party, and you can focus on why you're doing it in the first place. Not worried about whether or not George over in the corner got a drink. That's not going to get you to where you want to go. Okay. So I think if you're going to do an event, that you really should be focusing on being a participant in that event and having fun doing it.
Nice. Well, thank you everyone for being here. First of all, our guests thank you so much for coming. Thank you everyone for listening to us and commenting. Donna, Matthew, Rob, Aliyah, thank you for listening to this conversation. And I hope you got at least one thing that is going to help you host better events, to get better connections, and everyone, I'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Deanna.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
We will be talking soon. More events to come.
More things.